Hello, I'm Rixie, and this is Collector's Maze. My guest today is Gary Schwartz. Gary is an accomplished actor, voice actor, writer, and improv coach. He began his career as a mime at the age of 13, performing with the likes of Seegar and Arlo Guthrie. He has appeared in numerous film and television projects, including the Oscar-winning feature film Quest for Fire and the Emmy-winning TV series Zoobilee Zoo. Gary, welcome to the maze.
Thanks. Hi, nice to be here.
Well, I'm very grateful that you're here and excited to hear the stories and so much going on. All right, so my first big question that popped to mind is what are the events that led the 13-year-old Gary to becoming a mime? I mean, what took you down that road?
Well, I grew up, I was probably the first generation that grew up with television, back in the 1950s. And TV was, my sort of friend and babysitter. And I used to watch a lot of old movies and various variety shows that were on television. And, some of my heroes were people like Dick Van Dyke and Jackie Gleason and Red Skelton. And Red Skelton was very well known for doing little mime routines on his TV show. And we had a big picture mirror in our living room. And I just started experimenting with, seeing if I could keep my head still and then just move my body. And I just started playing around with that. And then I started copying some of the pantomime routines that I would see Red Skelton do or Dick Van Dyke do. And then when I was 13, I was invited to be in a play across the street from the school where I was. There was a Catholic school. They had the flu, and half the cast of the play Our Town was sick. So they asked us kids if they want. I just was very interested to just see what it's like inside a Catholic school. So I went over there and did my very first play. I was across the street at the Hebrew school studying for my bar mitzvah, and the director of that play said, "Well, you move very well. I have a mime troupe that works in Poughkeepsie, New York, which was about 60 miles south of where I lived. Maybe over the summer you could come and join us, and we do mime and perform." So that was the summer I turned 13, and I went to Poughkeepsie and worked with this mime troupe called the Now Teen Mime Troupe, and started performing. We got a job actually following Pete Seegar up and down the Hudson River on his Clearwater sloop, because back in the 1960s, the Hudson River was very polluted, and he had this campaign to clean up the river by making these big folk festivals along the banks of the Hudson. And so they needed crowd control while the concert was being set up, and the crowds would mass on the hillside. And my performing troupe was tasked with the job of performing at these folk festivals. So that's where I got my start.
Wow. So across the street, so from the Hebrew school to the Catholic school, and just saying yes to an opportunity led to going up and down the river. So a sloop, that's a boat of sorts, right?
It's like a schooner.
Like a schooner. So I'm assuming rather large. So he went up, and so would he stop at different places and do festivals along the river?
Absolutely. He would stop up along the Hudson River and do these folk festivals every 50 or 60 miles, and we'd follow along on the highway and get out. And while they were setting up the stage by the dock, we would be performing down for the masses as they were putting their blankets out on the bank.
Wow, what a great start story. I mean that's amazing. I love it, and I love the imagery. I'm thinking of a traveling circus, but instead of a train, it's on a boat, if you will, or a sloop. I'll have to look that up to see an exact picture of what a sloop looks like. But wow,
And us mimes would just travel. We would come, the parents of many of the kids. I kind of hung out with the kids from the Poughkeepsie area, and we would travel in cars and just drive to where they docked and do a show for the evening. And then Arlo Guthrie was performing, and Don McLean, and Pete Seegar.
wow. So and how long did you do that for?
That was for a summer.
For a summer, very nice.
Yeah.
And then so fast forward, you got into the film industry then at some point.
Well, it didn't all happen I mean, after that, I went back to being just a kid, going into college, and the colleges that I went to didn't have. I took dance at my first college because there was no drama, and then when I went to Emerson College in Boston, I couldn't get into the theater department because of certain requirements from transferring credits. Luckily, one of the resident teachers at Emerson that year was the director of the National Mime Theater of Boston, and I auditioned for that and became, from my background from being 13.
Yeah, so those mime roots kicked in again. Nice.
Yeah, and
you never know what you're going to use when, right?
No, and then that's when I learned classical mime. Before that, I was just doing kind of the mime that I had seen on TV, the comic mime. But there I learned how to walk against the wind and do those Marcel Marceau type illusions.
So there was a class in the college that you were attending that offered courses in doing.
Well, she taught at the college, yeah, and I also auditioned there was a troupe alongside the college, and while I was at that college, I started doing dinner theater, for $20 a weekend, north of there, and I only spent 1 year at Emerson, but that's when I decided to go down to New York and try to be an actor. Well, that didn't last very long. I ran out of money in about 6 months and went back to my hometown, Schenectady. Tended bar for 7 years. But while I was tending bar, I was always performing behind my bar, doing pantomimes and joking with my customers. And then I realized I was not happy tending bar. I was headed to the restaurant business as, owning my own bar. And it didn't seem like that's what I wanted to do. So I gave it all up. I started corresponding in the 1970s with an Israeli mime named Samuel Avital. And he convinced me to come to his kibbutz, which was in Boulder, Colorado. So I sold all my earthly goods and went to Boulder, Colorado to study mime and live on a kibbutz. But by the time I got to Colorado, somebody had offered him a European tour of his own one-man show. So he closed up the kibbutz, and there I was left in Boulder, Colorado. So I came out to Los Angeles, stayed on my sister's couch, and got another bartending job, but started doing the same exact thing I did in Schenectady, which was pantomime. But because it was Los Angeles, there was opportunities to really perform. And so I got connected with a mime company there called the Richmond Shepherd Mime Troupe. Met my comedy team partner, Caleb Chung. We became a comedy and mime duo. Started studying acting formally and got myself an agent. And that's where my career began back in the 1970s.
So really, all still stemming from that saying yes to going across the street to the Catholic school and
Exactly, because I
getting
wanted to
those
see what
roots and
the
learning
inside
to
of a
mime.
Catholic school looked like.
I mean,
Exactly.
it just goes to show you always stay curious, stay open, and when opportunities come up, don't be afraid to step into them. So that's great that you leaned into that.
It's really
So
funny. It's just the happenstance. I don't know exactly why or how, but yeah, it was. And I
I
knew I
really
wanted to be
believe.
a performer.
Yeah, I think the universe is constantly tossing stuff our way. We just have to get out of the way and be open, right? Not be
Yeah,
afraid just to step into it.
yeah.
And
I had to
uh,
ignore my parents that says, you don't go to LA and become an actor. Nobody does.
yeah,
Get rid of that idea and settle down and get a real job. And
well,
I did not
I,
take that road.
there are several of us that are grateful that you did not take that road because, as we'll get into, I mean, you have quite the career. So so your 70s, you're in LA in the 70s, acting. The Quest for Fire. I mean, that's the 1981 Oscar-winning fantasy feature film where prehistoric tribesmen are on a quest to replace their extinguished source of fire. Which classic story. But it's a really unique film. I'd forgotten about it, but it's a unique film in the fact that it reminds me of like a National Geographic, documentary only about prehistoric man. And of course, there's no narration. I remember those National Geographic stories or shows that you would
Yeah,
watch, and it would narrate through the life of, whatever animal they were on. But
yeah, yeah, yeah.
it's basically a National Geographic story of prehistoric man with no narration.
It was a science fantasy project directed by Jean-Jacques Arnaud, a wonderful filmmaker, and yeah, that was a real adventure for me.
What I'm curious what that audition was like. I mean, what did they have you do to audition for that film?
Now that's a really funny story. Basically, Jean-Jacques knew that they wanted to. There was going to be a nonverbal type picture, so they were looking for actors who could communicate nonverbally. So of course he first looked at mimes, and he went all around to various cities auditioning mimes. But funnily enough, mimes are terrible actors because they're all ooh, ee, ah, it's all external. There's nothing going on inside. And so my mime teacher and my partner, Caleb Chung, who had just recently gotten off of being inside of a chimp suit in the movie Greystoke, he had learned all of this chimpanzee stuff, and he looked aboriginal. And I went there completely thinking, well, I'm going on this audition just to have an experience because obviously nobody's going to want a tall, skinny, bald-headed Jewish caveman. And I figured my partner had it sewn up because he really looked, aboriginal, like I said. And he was athletic and I was not, and all of this stuff. So we meet the producer and director in this office at 20th Century Fox. And he goes, all right, he says, now this is a very interesting picture. It's about the discovery of fire. And so what I want to see is the audition is basically, poof, I magically plucked you from your world, and here you are in this office. Show me what you would do. So my mime teacher gets up, and he's a mime, so he goes and starts picking lice off of the director's head and eating it and stuff. And kind of corny. And then my partner gets up, and he's like, he just starts exhibiting all of this beautiful chimpanzee movement and being like a chimp. And, I thought, there, he's got it, Then he goes to me, he goes, all right, this is so, here you are, taking you from your world, your cave, and you are here. What would you do? So I thought about it for a second and I said, wow, if I'm just plucked out of what I know, which is the natural world, into this very weird, sterile box, white box with strange smelling carpet, nothing smelled natural. I'm sitting on this thing called a couch, and so I said, I would probably just freeze and go, what the hell has happened to me? And then I would start to look for things that were familiar because nothing looked familiar. I started just smelling things. I smelled the carpet, which smelled funky and weird, but I went to a plant. There was a potted plant in the room, and I started smelling the earth, and taking the earth out of the pot, just smelling it, and then there were wood shavings from a pencil in the ashtray. So I started smelling that because it was something I could identify. And he goes, oh, that's it, of course, you don't know where you are. You would look for something, and, and then, so he goes, let me send you the script. I'm telling you, at the time, I was really struggling as an actor down in L.A., and he sent me the script, and the character was a complete description of me, a skinny, balding caveman who was the keeper of the fire, who looked with his large bulbous green eyes stare aimlessly into the fire. And he said, so it took another 6 months of auditioning him around the world for him to come back to LA and say, all right, you have the part.
Oh, wow. Wow. What an incredible story. I love that. I mean, of course, to think, they're never going to pick me, only to find out it was you.
And I think because I was so relaxed and knew that I had no chance at being a caveman, and because I was the first one cast in the picture, they used my height as a sort of, they needed a lot of taller people.
Okay.
And I became
so you were the gauge for the rest of the cast.
Yeah, I became part of the Ulam tribe. And
Ulam,
that was my tribe. Yeah, we were the proto-human tribe that we could extract fire from nature, but we couldn't make it.
Oh, okay. I think I remember the scene that I had rewatched. I think was a scene that you were in. There was an attack. Another tribe was attacking. They started by throwing things off the, at the top of the cliff that came down into the cave.
They were called the Wagaboo.
I remember, like, so when you said you're the keeper of the fire, I remember seeing, grab the.
I'm in the cave and
makeshift lantern. Yeah.
And I take it away. Yeah.
Yeah. What a fascinating film. So you mentioned that there's no written dialogue, so all the dialogue was made up, right?
It was actually invented by Anthony Burgess, who was the same man who invented the language for A Clockwork Orange. Do you know the movie A Clockwork Orange?
No, I'm not familiar with that one. Tell me about it.
Oh my goodness, that's a Stanley Kubrick science fiction movie with Malcolm McDowell, and takes place in a futuristic England where these droogie gangs would roam the streets and talk sort of a Cockney / a Russian mix of language. And he was a linguist as well as a science fiction writer. And so he was engaged to create the Ulam language, which was based on Indo-European root sounds, so that words would have, if you didn't know what you were saying, but they were the root sound of words that became European words, like ogozi for eyes, ogozi, see, or tir for animal, meg for big. So meg meant big or many, and he created about 200 words of a language that we had to learn. And so, like I can speak in Ulam, I can say, ich nacha piom, ich menya brat, which translated into English means, he's not heavy, he's my brother.
Oh wow! I mean, so how, I mean, you got to learn the language, memorize the language, and then impart the action or whatever action it is to go along with that. I mean, you got to understand what you're saying.
And the director was very smart, because he said, look, only use language if you can't get them to understand you in another way. In other words, be physical first. So that's why I think only of the 200 words, I think only about 20, 30 words are used in the whole movie.
Wow. So if you use words only if you have to, that's probably the simplest, best way to help someone with that. That is great. I love that.
Yeah.
Well, it's inspired me. I want to sit down and watch the entire movie. I must confess I haven't had a chance to watch it. I remember seeing it when I was younger. Catching part of it. I don't remember if I had actually watched all of it, but now it's just fascinating. I mean, the scene that I watched.
It won the Oscar for Best Special Effects Makeup. And that was the very first year that the Academy had that as a category.
Wow. And that, there's not really been, I was trying to think, is there anything that would, I guess the Planet of the Apes movies would be the only thing that would be similar to it, but not really.
No, although, no, I mean, most cave people, dress in, furry bikinis and speak English.
Yeah.
It's really corny.
Yeah, well, love the scene that I watched, and definitely was great that I caught your scene on that. So wonderful movie. I hope I am going to sit down and fully watch it. So Zoobilee Zoo, I mean, kind of jumping gears here a little bit, but Zoobilee Zoo with Ben Vereen, right?
Right.
So that was a late '80s live action children's show featuring various humanistic animals, right? And they were facing life's challenges together. And you played Bravo Fox, is that right?
That's correct.
Bravo Fox for 62 episodes.
65 episodes.
65 episodes. Wow. So, I mean, that looks. I remember it, seeing it a few times. Back in the day. What was it like being on that show? I mean, that must have been.
Wow, that was something else. That was great. The audition for that was interesting too, because they said, they said he has to be a self-important, egotistical actor, but lovable. So I remember sitting at the audition, and I would hear all of these actors go in, and they would be reading like this and saying things like that, or they'd be talking like this, And I'd say, well, they definitely have the egotistical actor part, but not lovable. So I thought, well, if you use the voice of Ed Wynn, who is one of the most copied voices for animation around, I used that voice and tried to be, you could basically tell kids to jump in a lake, and it'd sound cute because, and you've heard him on Mary Poppins. Do you remember the movie Mary Poppins?
Yes.
Well, he's Uncle Arthur from Mary Poppins,
So, Mary Poppins, absolutely.
Oh, yes, you remember him, don't you? And he also was the voice of the Mad Hatter in Alice in Wonderland. And so a lot of cartoons based characters on that voice, and I could do that voice. And so I just did it and bit and was adorable. So I got the part.
Put in a little Ed Wynn into your
Yeah,
Bravo Fox.
basically you could just tell, you could say, "Go screw yourself," and it's cute.
Yeah, I watched the episode where Bravo Fox had offered the beaver to stay at his house, and yeah, it was, it was such a fun episode. Such a fun episode.
Funny, the actor who played the beaver and I were both up for Bravo,
Oh, okay.
and then I got it, and then he didn't, and then the actor who did get it didn't like to wear the costume, and so they recast him after the first episode, and Sandy became Bill Beaver instead of Bravo Fox.
Nice. That leads into my next question. How challenging were the costumes? I mean, notice you was going to sleep on the couch, and the couch was because you have a tail, right? So you can't quite lay on your back or whatnot. So, what were some of the other challenges with the costume?
Well, I had the hardest one, I think, because I wanted the hair pieces to really look natural. Everybody else had kind of wore a hat that looked like a furry cap, or some costume like with a hood that you could take off. Or Forrest Gardner could take off his lion's wig. But I had ears glued to my head and wigs put on this way, and then I had wigs put down the side of my face. So I had these long flowing wigs that had to be glued on all day long. Plus, we all had the prosthetic noses. I was used to prosthetics, having done Quest for Fire, which was a lot of prosthetic makeup. So that was fun, actually. That part was fun. But after they cut, everybody could take their hat off and cool off, and I had to stay in these wigs, and if the hair snagged, my wig would come off, and I was constantly getting it glued back on. It was a pain in the ass, but it worked really well, so I bore through it. But we shot probably 12 to 15 hours a day to shoot that show. We shot that whole series of 65 musical half hours in 15 weeks. And so we basically lived in those costumes, and it was exhausting, but really worth it. They wanted to basically, Hallmark was trying to sort of go up against Sesame Street, and we were also in the category, we won Best Costumes Emmy, and our competition was Pee-wee's Playhouse from Pee Wee Herman. But we won that, and it was a great. I had even written an episode of that show.
Oh, I didn't catch that.
Yeah.
So, with that, I was going to ask. So, do you have a favorite episode or a favorite moment from the show? I mean, is that?
I got to tell you, I have some outtakes from that show that are very racy and spicy.
Oh, okay, priceless, huh? So
Not for children.
Gotcha. We would not air that on PBS. Oh, Bravo Fox.
Yeah, but we had a lot of fun. They gave us a lot of leeway, and they often never yelled cut. So after the scene was over, they just let us see what we would come up with, and I usually would come up with some ad libs that were a lot of fun.
Oh, I bet there was a lot
We
of
had a
gold down
blast.
there.
We really enjoyed spending time. You're spending time with those people, certain people, for 15 hours a day, 5 days a week. Those were the fun people to be with. Mike Moynihan and Sandy Grin and Forrest Gardner and Karen Hartman, Louise Valance. Ben Vereen, he would just come in and shoot his wraparounds, basically, because he was a big star, and he wasn't there the full time.
Well, it looks like an amazing show. It looks like it was a lot of fun. I'm a big cosplayer, and working my way down the acting route slowly but surely, getting there. But I love when I saw that, I loved that episode, and I love that you were a part of that. So that's just,
we had wonderful. A lot of fun with that, and we got to do all sorts of things. I remember I played a tooth fairy, and I wore this like tutu, and then I had to play Cinderella's stepmother as a fox. And then also I was teaching Wazat, the kangaroo, how to be a lady. So I would dress up as a lady. They had to get me size 13 high heels and show her how to walk in high heels. And then I got a fan letter from this little girl going, "Dear Bravo, I loved you in the Tooth Fairy and Cinderella and Lady Wazat. Can I ask you, do you like dressing up like a girl?"
Oh, that's great. I mean, that's got to be, I mean, priceless. I mean, getting fan letters from kids, even letters like that. I mean, wow.
That was adorable. Yeah, I had a good time with that. I love working for kids. My partner Caleb and I, when we were sort of before I made the big time with those shows, we were doing school assemblies as a mime duo, and we did 600 or 700 schools to make our sort of daily bread. We would do these, school assemblies, and that's where my partner and I developed our chemistry as a comedy team. Then when I got Zoobilee Zoo, and he didn't because he was up for it, he went off and got a job at Mattel Toys designing toys. And then when he left Mattel, he went off on his own and he designed a particular toy called the Furby. And now he's a multimillionaire living very happily in Idaho.
All from the Furby. All from the Furby.
Boy, the Furby was huge.
Yes, it was. Yes, it was. I even saw a small resurgence there for a little bit where, a few things came back. So.
Oh, new Furbies are out this year. It's going to be
Are they really?
Toy.
Oh, I did not realize that.
Much more AI.
Okay. Ooh, Furby, the original AI. There's a comedy in that somewhere. I mean, this, little Monty Python twist on it with a Furby.
It was the original AI toy.
Yeah. Ooh, that gives me ideas. Anyway, all right. So I've got to ask you about. I mean, you appeared on the TV sitcom Ellen as Gary in the episode Making Whoopee. I mean. And my wife and I went and watched that episode. I forgot how much fun that show was. I mean, it was really good comedy. I watched a few of her talk show, but the sitcom was really good. So what's the story behind booking that role?
That's really interesting. I was in an acting class early on in my career with a guy named Jonathan Stark and another guy, Dave Flabot, who ended up becoming producers. Jonathan was a writer, producer on Cheers. Okay. And Dave Flabot had gone on and has done a lot of writing and producing on shows. And they were both what they called showrunners on the Ellen Show. And basically, I just ran into Dave, and he goes, "Oh, you know what? There's a part for somebody trying to sell jokes. You want to do it?" They just said, "We'll name him Gary."
Perfect.
So I just showed up and did it.
Right place, right time.
It's really who you know. And then when I tell people, how do you get started in show business, I say, take a lot of acting classes, and then if you don't strike it, one of your acting classmates might, and they might remember you.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, great. I was trying to remember the joke. Do you remember the joke that you passed off? Did they?
Oh gosh, it was some terrible joke. No,
I'll have to go and look. But it was.
What I do remember is when we also taped a second episode that I wasn't in, that starred Martha Stewart. And Ellen was trying to make a Thanksgiving dinner in her friend's apartment, and she runs into Martha Stewart, who's teaching her how to make radish roses. And my wife was a big Martha Stewart fan, so we waited at the studio to get an autograph from Martha Stewart.
Oh yeah, oh heck yeah! I love the whole Martha Stewart Snoop Dogg collaboration stuff. I mean, that's a lot of fun.
I'll tell you, she takes herself not so seriously, which I think is part of her success.
Yeah, that's key, isn't it? Right? I mean,
absolutely.
If you can't laugh at yourself, I mean, you got to have fun. You got to enjoy life, right?
Yeah.
So I would be remiss if I didn't jump over to the voiceover and video game genre for a minute. I mean, you have quite the extensive list of voiceover credits. One that, I mean, as you can tell by the wall behind me, that I'm particularly interested in is the Star Wars, the Knights of the Old Republic video games. And you voiced a fish-eating Mon Calamari named Langus, or Gus, right? Do I have that right?
Yeah, Langus Tuno.
Langus Tuno. So I'm curious, what was the process like for finding his voice?
So I auditioned for that. That was one of my very first sending an MP3 by email. That was my first email audition. I was working in Idaho teaching improv at a performing arts high school, and I got this audition, and it was completely out of context, and so I just read it as best I could. And then I think about 6 months later, I got a call back from that, and they said, okay, we're changing the character. We want you to audition for this. And they showed me a picture of this padawan, Star Wars character, this fish-faced character, and I'm one of the characters that you can take through the whole game. In other words, if you find me early and play me all the way through the game, I turn good, because I start out as a con man, and because I've had experience with all of the villains, if you befriend me early in the game, I give you hints on how to defeat the villains. And and so I started recording, and of course, they just said, don't make it Yoda. But I had to be it like I was a fish, so I just kind of did, fish, and that's the voice that I found, and I just let my mouth do that thing, and just basically became this character.
Nice. That's great. I love because the dialogue that Gus has. I mean, the twice a day, like atmospheric suppositories. I mean, that's some colorful dialogue. Were those in the script, or did they let you ad lib?
No, most of those were in the script, and
okay.
But I like delivering comedy lines, and I'm good with comedic characters for the most part. I'm never playing the serious general or warrior. I'm always playing the fun characters. So, so delivering those lines were a lot of fun, and I think we recorded over like 2 years, because the game hadn't been animated. They were, going to animate after they had done the scripts, and I mean the scripts were 700 pages, because there's a lot of branching. So you're just doing alt scenarios for one scene could be, five different outcomes.
Nice. So yeah, in animation, the voice, does the voiceover always comes first, and they do the animating of the character later, or
yeah,
is that typical?
Yeah, that's typical, unless you're dubbing a foreign movie or a foreign animation.
Yeah, that makes sense. So how do you feel about a live action Gus? I mean, I feel like we need to see him in live action somewhere. What are your thoughts on that?
I would love that, and I could certainly play him. I'm very good with prosthetics.
Heck yeah, that would be so much fun. I mean, he seems like a really fun character. I mean, he's like a cross between Luke Skywalker and Han Solo, because he is that smuggler, right? That he likes but also he's a Padawan, so he's a little force sensitive. He's not great at it, and he didn't want to stick with it. So
he's basically a coward.
Yeah. So he took a different path, but he still got some of the tricks there. So it was really cool. Very cool. All right. So you wrote a book for middle school readers called The King of Average. I have a copy here.
I do too.
Look at hey, we match. And so it's a wonderful pun-filled story about a lonely, self-conscious boy named James, right, who finds himself transported to the kingdom of average. And I love, I mean, there he meets these strange but familiar characters, right? And together they embark on this journey. To me it felt like a Alice in Wonderland, Chronicles of Narnia meets Disney Elementals. I really enjoyed that. So I'm curious, what inspired you to write the story? What took you down that?
I was a big fan of a book called The Phantom Tollbooth. I don't know if you've ever read that story.
I have not.
But that was the first sort of pun-filled adventure about a little boy who was bored with life, and Tollbooth comes in a box to his room, and he drives through it into the lands beyond, where they're at war. The land of Digitopolis, the kingdom of words, is at war with the kingdom of mathematics.
Oh, okay.
Digitopolis. And he goes through the same kind of a journey where, he jumps to the Isle of Conclusions. He meets the world's tallest giant and the world's the world's smallest giant and the world's tallest midget. And they're all the same height, and stuff like that. So it's a lot of whimsy, and it's sort of the 1960s version of Alice in Wonderland, I suppose. And I remember as a kid, I was also just came from a very sort of dysfunctional background, and feeling very unloved, and being told not very good at anything, and sort of half believing it, more than half believing it. And I remember having one conversation with myself. I'm 11 years old, and I'm thinking to myself as I'm walking, well, I'm not that terrible. And I said, yeah, you're not that terrible. But then the same voice would say, well, you're not that wonderful. I go, no, you're not that wonderful either. So I say, yeah, well, I don't do anything badly. That's true. But I don't do anything great. That's true. I said, I bet I could anything, if I put my mind to it, I could be average at anything I tried. And then I thought to myself, what if I became the most average person who ever lived? And that made me laugh, because if I was the most anything, I wouldn't be average. So I had that idea, and then I said, I thought, what if I was that same little boy, like in the Phantom Tollbooth? And except instead of going into a concept world of numbers and words, I went into an emotional landscape. And, I found somebody to take the blame for me. And I'd say, who would that be? It would be a scapegoat of some kind. And I'd say, well, let's make him a goat. And he's actually bred to be a scapegoat, to take the blame.
And the mayor.
Yeah, and he's a mayor. Well, because the pun mea culpa is Latin for mea culpa, which means my fault.
Oh, okay. Nice.
Mea culpa, so I just called him Mayor Culpa.
I love that.
And so then along the way he would meet an eternal optimist, but who had to be balanced out by a little man in his pocket who was a professional pessimist. And I just took it from there, and I just started writing this fun adventure. And he would go to the kingdom of average, where they make the law of averages. And so I just started from that idea. And then, as I became an adult, I've always had the idea, but I never ever took it anywhere. But I would always tell people this kernel of this idea. And along the way, I had my own therapy, and I had my own breakthroughs about my own unhappy childhood, and resolved all of that stuff and learned a lot about psychology. So I applied the lessons that I learned to this book, and I created this adventure for this little boy to go on, very much like my own personal therapy, where, when you're an unhappy child, you in order to survive, you sort of develop a false self. You develop this self that other people won't suspect you feel bad inside. And that's the world. That's the persona you present to the world. And there was a book written about that called The Drama of the Gifted Child, about abused children who develop these great happy-go-lucky personalities to hide their feelings of worthlessness. But then, it's an emotionally unbalanced life until you work it out. And so I worked it out in an adventure story, and it became a book.
Well, I love, and first of all, I mean, thank you for being vulnerable and sharing the story, because I mean that is a vulnerable thing, right? I mean, to share that. So thank you for doing that. Because
there's a lot of kids. I'm not the only one who comes from unfortunate background, but you can overcome it, or you can be destroyed by it. And thank God I found a way through.
Well, it's a wonderful story. I thoroughly enjoyed it.
Thank you.
Now I went a different path. I went and grabbed the audiobook, is where I started with it, and I loved that you narrated the audiobook.
I had so much fun. I heard all of those voices in my head writing it.
Oh, okay. So my question, I mean, there's so many characters in each. I mean, Mariculpa has the goat sound, the pessimist, the optimist. I mean, each with a different sound. How did you keep everybody straight? I mean, when did you read through it all at once, or do you do one part and then come back? How does that work?
No. You read through it. Luckily, I had a producer. I hired a studio and a producer to. I didn't want to do it, so I really, when I decided to do the audiobook, I got Cedar House Audio to help me, and had a good director and a producer, and she could tell when my voice was getting tired, or if my character, she said, you're not matching from page 20. Let's go back, and
oh, nice.
She'd feed me what I did in page 20, and on page 80 I could bring back that voice. So it's a lot of stop and start and editing, but you creating the voices are fun. It's just matching them all the way through and not getting your voice to get tired.
Now, did you make notes on, like, okay, this is what I do for this character, or I mean, how do you know? You just remember?
Yeah. Well, basically, as I'm writing it, these characters almost wrote themselves, because their dialogue is so distinctive. Martin Blatherskite, the slimy private detective. Yeah, I know how he talks. Everybody knows he's a Blatherskite. So you just create, making of voices is the best thing in the world. That's what I just love to do.
Well, you're incredible at it. I'm in admiration of it, and maybe one day I'll learn to get down that path a little bit. So I love that.
Be playful.
Be playful. Yeah. Well, yeah. I try. As you can see on the wall behind me, I try. You mentioned in one of our conversations the Sandvich saga.
The Sandvich saga.
Sandvich saga, yes, and I watched a few videos. But what is that? What's that all about?
It's very interesting because, as a matter of fact, I'll tell you, because in this coming month, I don't know, when are you posting this?
We can get it out as soon as possible. I mean,
so very soon we're going to be doing a contest for the Sandvich saga. So the Sandvich saga came about when the five of us actors all met at Emerald City Comic Con about a couple of years ago, just post-COVID, I think, coming out of COVID. So anyway, we all met at a Comic Con, a personal appearance, and we all, struck it. We all melded together. We all liked each other. We didn't. I've known all of the Seattle actors from working in various other genres, but even when you're doing a video game like TF2, you only come in to do your part. You don't really interact with the other actors. But so there we were all together, and we're just kind of jamming and improvising. And Robin from L.A., Robin Downs, had his cell phone, and we went into a local sandwich shop to say, let's look for the sandwich. And of course, they didn't have a sandwich, so he did this little video about where's the sandwich. And he put it up on Twitter, and it went viral. So then he had this idea that, well, let's keep doing it. And so we started doing more looking for the sandwich. And it became this serialized story of like, and we brought in a friend, Liz French, Liz McCarthy. And she became Mysterious Woman. And it just sort of grew on its own. So we've been doing posting these videos, and they've gone pretty much viral. And we've, I went from having something like 800 Twitter followers to, 20 something thousand now, and all because of they follow the sandwich saga. So looking for the sandwich. So, so now though we've decided, well, we haven't found the sandwich yet. So we had a meeting about it. What should we do? And we all thought, well, we could try to, make better ones, raise money. I said, you know what? I had this idea that why don't we let the fans write the remainder of the story? So we're going to have a contest where every couple of months the fans will send us in submissions for a 2-minute script that we could possibly shoot. And we'll pick the one that's shootable and shoot it, post it up as our next installment, and keep the story going, but it will be fan-driven.
So cool. I love that. I love that. So where do people need to go to watch the Sandvich Saga? Is that on YouTube?
Yeah, you can find it on YouTube, and you can search TF2 Sandvich.
TF2.
Yeah.
What does TF2 stand for? I'm curious.
Team Fortress 2.
Team Fortress 2. Okay, so did you guys have a video game in common, or?
Oh yeah, the video game Team Fortress 2.
Okay, I'm not a giant gamer, so I don't know all the games that are out there.
Well, that's the big game that's has sort of made me kind of a minor celebrity. That game has finally, broken through. I mean, we did that game like 16 years ago, but the game is still played worldwide, and it's one of the most popular games. It still trends on Twitter.
Oh, okay. I'm gonna have to check it out. So
it's
then
a great shooter game, and I play 2 characters in the game. I play heavy weapons guy.
All right, I did see something about that. Okay.
Yeah, I play this guy.
Yes. Okay. I see the likeness.
And I also play this guy, a one-eyed black Scottish bomber named Demo Man.
Demo Man and Demo Man and Heavy. Okay.
Heavy weapons guy. I play heavy. And the Demo Man, he's a one-eyed black cyclops. And the characters are a lot of fun. And gamers are like avid, about this game. They have thousands of hours into this game.
Okay. I'm going to have to check it out.
Yeah. And anyway, so we're the cast of Team Fortress 2, the mercenaries, searching for the sandwich. Now, the sandwich in the game is an item that you find that if you eat the sandwich, it gives you invulnerability. You can't get killed.
Oh, so that's why you're looking for the sandwich.
Yeah.
It's like the Fountain of Youth, only pastrami on rye.
Yeah, exactly. It doesn't last forever, but so you're always looking for where is sandwich.
Oh, okay. I watched a few of the videos, and they're great. I love them. So so you mentioned, so you guys are on Twitter, or X as it's called now, right? Is that where the submissions will be at?
No, you'll be. I'll be asking you to send them directly to an email account I set up called @Improv Odyssey, and then we'll be posting the videos on. I think most of the videos are posted both on X and on YouTube.
So X and YouTube. So that's the two best places for someone to keep up on the Sandwich Saga.
And also Facebook,
and find out.
people,
Okay.
For
So
the
just about all the
old
social
listeners.
platforms.
Yeah, most of the social platforms. I'm not big with a lot of the social platforms, but I have presence on Facebook and Twitter and YouTube and a little bit on Instagram.
And so you said it was. Give us the handle for YouTube and everything again.
You can just search TF2 Sandvich.
And that's V, not W, right?
Right,
Sandvich.
Sandvich with a V.
V-I, so SANDVICH.
Right.
Saga.
Yeah.
Saga, okay. So I'm definitely...
We've got about 20 of them over the past year and a half, 2 years.
Okay.
And we're just at a point where we don't know where the story's going to go, so we're going to leave it up to the fans to help us write the rest of the story.
Where has the story been left off? Where is it currently?
Currently, oh my God, we've gotten out of some straits. Marasmus is, we've been fighting this evil organization called Crust.
I love it.
And Crust is, so we've been bombarded with bread crusts, and we recently had the Battle of the Buns, where we were pelted by buns, and then also we've been finding romance because me and the medic, Heavy and the medic, have kind of a bromance going.
Okay.
And
okay.
Sniper and the administrator. Sniper is played by John Patrick Lowry, and the administrator by Ellen McLean. And Ellen is also the voice of GLaDOS.
GLaDOS. And that's also from the game as well?
No, that's from Halo.
Halo. Okay. Halo. All right.
GLaDOS. That's like she's a super god. She's a superstar.
Okay, nice. I'm a casual gamer, not a real intense gamer.
Well,
so I'm sure there's a lot of people that will recognize all these.
In their genes when they hear about that GLaDOS is the administrator.
Nice.
Anyway, and John and Ellen are finding romance, and then there's a character called the Pyro, who is played by Dennis Bateman, who is starting to have a romance with a mysterious woman who is sort of our liaison to tell us all about these evil plots by Marasmus and Crust. We've defeated them so far, and you have to follow. They're only 2-minute videos, so it's not long to catch up on the saga. But then we just don't know where it's going to go from there. But we're looking forward to seeing what the fans think.
Nice. I think I've watched all of them. I'm going to have to go back and check my history, make sure I didn't miss any.
Yeah, I think the last one was Battle of the Buns.
Battle of the Buns. Okay, that one is not. I don't remember that one, so I'm going to have to look for that one. I remember him stalking and peeking around the corner, saw the croissant on the table. I remember that one.
Oh yeah, that was shot early on the Seattle ferry on the ferry boat.
That was great. Yeah, I definitely remember those. All right, so the Sandvich Saga. Yeah, you mentioned something when you were talking about that about improv acting coach. I mean, you're a master improvisational. That's a hard word to say. Improvisational acting coach
Yes.
with ties to Second City. So what?
Yeah. I got so lucky. I mean, I really credit Viola Spolin, who's the woman who invented improvisation in America.
Mm-hmm.
Back in the 1950s, and she and her son Paul Sills established a performing troupe of people that went on to huge careers in entertainment. Mike Nichols and Elaine May, if you've never heard of them, look them up.
Oh yeah.
And Mike Nichols became a fantastic film director. He's directed things like The Graduate and Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf and movies, so many movies, unbelievably brilliant movies. Ed Asner. I mean, they spawned the whole the whole improvisational movement in America from the 1950s on. And Viola lived in Los Angeles, and I got involved in her improv class by accident. but she just changed my whole life. As a matter of fact, the picture right above me, right there, is a picture of Viola Spolin. And her book, Improvisation for the Theater, basically changed generations and influenced the careers of everybody from Alan Alda to Rob Reiner to everybody. So she and her son started something that became what was known in Chicago as Second City. And the Second City has become a huge improvisational factory, basically. I studied with her in Los Angeles and became a friend of hers, and we became friends, and I became her protege. And I knew her for the last 20 years of her life, and when she passed away, I kept teaching and promoting her work because her work is so valuable, not just to the theater, but to social work and psychology and so many other fields. Improvisation is one of the most useful tools there is to develop one's talent and creativity. You're not born with talent. You are capable of talent through playing games. And so she used the concept of game playing, inventing theater style games to play that would, when you play a game, you are your most natural self. And that's what actors are. They're players.
Makes sense. Makes sense.
Yeah.
So remind me the name of the book that she had written.
It's called Improvisation for the Theater.
Improvisation for the Theater. Okay, I'm going to check that out.
Yeah. Do I have a copy of it here? I have
I've jumped in some improv classes. I love the games. They really are. I mean,
I have a website if you're interested, with some archival footage of her and of me teaching. Because I wanted to get her work out to the world, I created a website called SpolinGamesOnline.org.
SpolinGamesOnline.org, and that's SPOLIN, right?
Right, GAMES online.
Okay.
And there's about 70 videos of me lecturing and me doing games and Viola Spolin, and you'll learn an awful lot. And if you want to be a teacher, it's a great companion to her book, Improvisation for the Theater, which is the basic handbook of improvisation in America.
Okay.
It's foundational and brilliant.
All right. Well, yeah, as soon as we get off here, that's on my to-do list. I want to go check that out. You mentioned, okay, so you teach, is Improv Odyssey, is that the name of the school that you founded?
Well, I created a company called Improv Odyssey because for a while there I was teaching corporations improvisational skills for team building and creativity and brainstorming and communication skills. Alan Alda uses Viola Spolin's games to teach scientists to become more communicative to their lay audiences, so that they can better communicate their work to a wider audience. So there's a million uses for improvisation beyond the theater and beyond developing yourself as an actor. But it's a wonderful tool, and I still improvise and perform with we have a group called the Spolin Players that have been performing since the 1980s. And we get together every Wednesday afternoon and Zoom and perform.
Oh, okay. So is that an online thing that others can,
no,
jump in on the Zoom? Or is this...
I mean, there's video of the Spolin Players performing at Spolin Games Online, but we just do it for ourselves because it's a great way to stay in touch with each other and to have a creative outlet.
That sounds like a lot of fun.
It's a lot of fun. And I teach improv online. I haven't taught for a while because I've gotten so wrapped up in being this Team Fortress 2 celebrity. But I'll get back to it.
Yeah. So the teaching online, is that on a website somewhere that you've been doing when you get back to it? I mean, where would someone go to find out about that?
SpolinGamesOnline.org. There's you can get on my mailing list, and when I open up a class, plus I'll also be teaching in person now. And you can also, if you want to create a workshop for me to come and, if you can find the money to bring me out to any place, I will travel somewhere for a weekend and run a weekend workshop anywhere for you. I've taught it all over the world. It's a blast. I've taught it in Chile. I've taught it in Mexico, Greece.
Let me ask you this: how do you feel about barbecue in Kansas City?
I love it. Are you kidding?
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
Well, I'd love to figure out how to get you to Kansas City. It'd be great. But
I'd love
in the
to come to
meantime,
Kansas City.
I'm going to definitely check out the Spollen Players games or Spollen Games
Online.org.
Okay, well, I'll add that in the video, and also the book. You know, if you haven't read,
promoting that. I'm actually at a book fair this coming Saturday.
Where's the book fair at?
In Issaquah, Washington.
Issaquah, Washington.
I'll
Okay.
be at the Issaquah Public Library with 20 local authors promoting our books.
Promoting the books. So do you have? This will probably air. You'll probably have done that, and so what is there a schedule of your book tour?
I don't have a book tour. The book won a lot of awards back when I wrote it, and it came out in 2016. And since then, you know, it's just available on Amazon.
Okay, I was going to ask you the best place that you suggest to get it, and
also, if you're interested in getting an autographed copy of either the book or of any of the Team Fortress 2 pictures or of Zoobilee Zoo,
yes,
go to streamily.com and type in my name, and that's an autographing service. And
okay.
I can do video shout-outs to fans for a price, send you that and an autographed picture.
And that's Streamily. Spell that out for me. That's Stream A.
STREAMILY.
Okay. .com. Okay. Streamily.com, and you've got books, pictures from the video game.
Yeah.
I love
also on Cameo if you
okay.
Get
all right.
on that.
That is so good. I love that. Gary, man, hang on for a bit here when we get done signing off here. But I really appreciate this time, especially getting to know you. I mean, you've done so much and doing so much.
It's been a long career. I can't believe it. It's gone like in a flash, but I'm having a good time still.
Well, what I love is that it all stemmed from walking from the Hebrew school to the Catholic school to be in a play. I mean,
that's it.
And that just goes to show you you just have to be open and ready. I mean, say yes, right?
Yeah,
say yes.
Definitely say yes. That's an improv tenet.
Yeah, yes and, right? Is it yes and?
It's yes and. I just say yes. I don't even
say yes.
And.
Just say yes. I mean, when it walks up, just say yes. That's all you got to do. Well, thank you so much. I've thoroughly enjoyed this, and I know we're going to talk more because there's a lot of things I'm interested in. So,
thanks. It's been a pleasure talking to you. I hope this is a really long interview. I hope people get through it.
No, this is perfect. I love it. This is perfect. Thank you.